statements already that we have a road plan, is working off the money from the casino, and that it's maintaining our roads. There are questions as to whether that plan is good enough or not. But in light of the fact that that question is still out there, I cannot see us adding $37 increase to the dues around here for what is in essence an argument between how much money we used to spend, which was $500,000, versus what we're spending to keep the roads up as they are. What I'm going to propose at this point is that we meet somewhere in the middle, but we don't ignore the fact that the roads aren't assessed. That you take a portion of the depreciation and do, in fact, begin the process, because unless the new governor and Hogan can turn this thing around to where we start getting the money back from the state, the assumption is we're going to need more money than the casino. Okay? So I'm going to throw out there $5 added to the assessment, which basically just gets us about 40 grand. And all we're really doing is taking 40 grand of the depreciation and actually putting it.
Are we going to send a delegation to the commission to talk about adding part of the casino, which we don't know?
Dave will do it.
Yeah, Dave's going to do that. Yeah,
We're going to do that.
Well, I did it last year because Tom was
right.
gone, and he did it the year before.
I
so,
did.
yeah.
The issue for me becomes, it's more concept than anything else. Do we honestly believe we can maintain our roads for the rest of the history? This community, you know, we're a policy group, and at this point, I don't know that the casino money is going to pay for the roads in the long run. We already know, I believe in putting money aside. Right now, the roads are $72,000 in the hole. We're taking care of that. I don't think you zero that out and leave it alone. I think we put in place, we put some money in there based on a nominal allocation of the depreciation, so that, and they have to figure out exactly what that impact. But at a philosophical level, I'm simply saying I don't agree. Marty's right up to put all $314,000 worth of depreciation in there, which would have been an increase of $37. But I'm saying look at something around $5 and let's get some more input from the operations side, so as to whether or not, that would be reasonable to have. I can't support $314,000 being added when the plan we've got has been maintaining our roads.
Now, is the 225 we get from the state, that in addition to the
250, 225 is already assigned to the roads. That's what we've been using now.
What happens, Pat, just so you know, the state money goes to the county. Whatever the county gets, 10% of. So we've been getting somewhere in the range of 57,000, something like that, this past year, but somewhere in the 50s usually. Used to be, we got $500,000. But now the casino money comes in approximately 250, so we've been applying 250 plus the county money.
We don't get that. It's closer to 20
per month. I'm talking about the annual amount of money coming in from the county. You're talking casino, Joe. I'm talking about the money from the county. Okay. So county gives us approximately 50-something, and we get approximately 250 from the casino. So we're 260. About 300,000, correct?
614.
So he's saying another $5 for the road,
Really,
and it should pretty close balance out.
I'm saying I can't support adding $314,000 to this budget for roads. It's just when there is a question out there as to whether or not, and in my mind there isn't one, but there are from other, that the road plan we have is fine. I've seen it a couple of years ago. I haven't seen it last week. But, I'm throwing out there for discussion purposes, whatever the depreciation would be to equate to $5 worth of the depreciation being put into the assessment. But I would like to have some time to work with Art and Bob to really figure out what that impact really would be in the end, so I'm kind of officially rejecting the idea of the 314, and I want to investigate at least putting something in there as a policy that we are going to start taking some of the depreciation of our roads, because eventually, I believe we're going to have to pay for roads.
Oh.
I don't think there's any question we're going to have to pay for them. Annapolis isn't going to do it. So that's my motion, is that we reject this 314 and give me some time to work with Art and Bob to figure out what might make some sense to add in. If you're okay with that.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
I think I don't have any objection to that. I personally. No.
Okay.
And the second thing, when you're talking about adding the assessment, I'm going to go again with the fact that I think we need a closer examination to probably get that at our historic reserve and what it's consistent. We need a whole look, but right now I would need assessment.
So what you're saying is don't put it all in the assessment.
Nope.
Forget. Okay.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm
Just
I think we're doing fine with the roads actually.
take it out of the historic reserve.
Yeah.
So we take 40,000 out of the procedure.
And if we need it.
If we need.
That's what really I'm getting. It's if we need it. Yeah. And just for the record, we're throwing around this historical dollars and how much money we've got and all that, and since we have accumulated depreciation, including the roads in this country, of $20 million of accumulated depreciation, with somewhere around, what is the number here, not counting recovery, somewhere around $4 million. So we got $4 million against $20 million in depreciation. Some of that depreciation, of course, the replacement costs, as you have said earlier, you've got inflation and tax rates, and the fact that we spent all the interest off reserves that we could have kept, but that kept the dues down. The bottom line is, let's not completely look at the historical reserve. We're going to do a reserve study. We've already decided to do that. Great. Before we start really moving all things around just completely, let's understand we got $20 million worth of depreciation on our books right now. That no, it doesn't have to be paid off tomorrow, but it's still on the books, and we've got $4 million against 20. So the historical fund looks like a heck of a lot of money until you take a long-term view of it. So I wouldn't start eating away at it too fast. But let's figure out what the roads really need.
I think you're looking at like 1, 2.
That's the small stuff. That's the rotating small stuff. That's the small stuff. You spend over $1 million a year just in the small stuff.
I think what should be in that fund,
Figure it out.
I think is an issue.
We'll figure it out.
But on the other hand, I can look right now and say, and have to get another response to that. I think it's
All I'm proposing is we reject the 314 as roads and let me work with Art and Bob as to whether we need to add anything for roads or not. Okay.
I'll go with that.
But I think we need to take out the cat. I don't think we need
You know what?
He's got a Mercedes.
He doesn't want it.
It is interesting.
Buy
I haven't
American.
looked at it in
Oh,
detail, but
okay.
I did look at the county CIP. That's how I scanned it out. It was interesting to look at how little money they were putting.
They just use state money, basically.
Yeah.
They really do. Not picking on them. I understand the
They're not
decision.
asking for any.
Our community can't just sit here and let it die. What else we got on Marty's list here, Vinny?
What do we do with the 5-year?
That's still staying in.
The 130 we're keeping.
That's staying
Yeah,
in,
that's
right?
staying
For
in.
now, that's the one we're keeping.
The collection, I would very much much like to see that change, I'm sorry, or change 55
Rename.
rename.
This is creative economy.
Call it, I don't care if this time you call
Something
it, if you want a
short.
permanent solution,
Short name.
it's a short name. Like I said.
The art fund.
The only other thing left on Marty's list since he left is the HVAC for the country club, 80,000. The only thing left on Marty's list was $80,000 for HVAC for the country club. Bob, that wasn't in your budget.
Was not my budget. And I wouldn't spend 80,000 on HVAC on the building until we know what we're going to do with the building.
Yeah.
Take that
All
out.
right.
And that's one of these people that the 135. I think some part of it, that's fine. Is that once we look at the CIP, that'll go down.
I'm going to move we reject that.
Yeah.
80 grand for an air conditioning unit. We don't really know yet what we're going to do
Keep the
with the
building.
Well, I can tell you,
That's just
it's been a 4-year elected issue, and now I think much of anything can have an effect on politicians. Not the fact that she's never complained about it. Has she complained about being called?
She has not.
She has.
Some of her group has.
Oh, yeah. Well, they didn't get approval from her.
All right, so what I understand, to sum this up, the only thing we do not have a decision on is we're leaving the yacht club salary alone or not. That's the only thing I don't see a decision on.
That's what you're going to be.
I guess. I'm not
Bob
sure.
is.
I got to double
You
check
can email to all of us and say, please do it.
with a couple people and say, does this look correct?
I got drafted into help.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's going to be
Tom's
80 grand.
right, yeah.
Correct.
Yes. He is
That's
not.
what my job.
They said, please step forward, and everybody else step back, so I was still standing
He
there.
was standing there.
Once you figured that out.
Well, I got that we've approved the reserve study at $5. Approved the golf thing at $4.20.
424 is what we had.
424.
$4.28. Approved the $1.83. Arena, right?
Yes.
Yeah, $4.85 for the. Now that's historical.
479.
479.
Pardon me, Pat, did you say you approved the golf range?
No.
No.
Oh.
Eliminate.
Increase the loss by.
Keep going. Eliminate.
And eliminate the trolley. No.
Yeah,
Chris,
eliminate.
On the
trial.
marina, we increased the revenue
Yeah, we
10,000.
have 532 for the tennis court. Is that right?
Yes,
532?
that's right. That's what we had.
237 on the swimming pool cover.
Yes.
The HVCA, we're eliminating that.
Yes.
Eliminating police, moving the
No,
historical.
moving the police.
Moving the historic.
And the historic, the electronic signage, yeah, $4.
Because we're only funding
Which is
one.
40 grand, right?
Well, is that
Well,
correct?
no, and then we have 237.
Oh, yeah, that's right, 237.
Yacht
is
club.
higher.
Yeah.
Right?
20,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, but-
Or yes, two.
Oh, you did $2. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
doing
No, we have
20,000. Okay.
20, and that's 237.
I don't have any age sheet.
Well, I
Well,
think
do we
I'd
know
like
the
to
total
see a
assessment,
summary of
Jane?
that.
Yes.
We need to get some.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But your secretary took good notes.
We'll redo it.
But I will
Can't have it
observe that
That's all right.
we had far more additions.
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
And, several ways to do that, to address that. Not my favorite, but I am not in favor of reducing. And we'll look at all possible. Some of that may result, may come out of payback. But yeah, it has to stand.
Hey, Doc, can't hear you out here.
I'm sorry. It may have to come out of the rate at which we pay back that deficit, and translate that into operations. I mean, it's. In other words, we'll reduce the contribution, reduce the 135 and pay it back at a small rate.
Oh.
I mean, one way or another. I mean, we have to recover
what it is that we added, even just to get, and my target still is a no increase assessment this year.
Dave, how could you possibly do that? $24 increase with the fire department. We all voted to go if we have a choice.
Well, no,
So
we have.
we're going to absorb that $24?
Well, that's exactly my recommendation. Is that we will, one way or another, absorb that
I don't know how you're going to do it.
that recommendation. And by the way, we've added more than that. I mean, it was
Absolutely
just-
we have.
It's gonna be a higher number.
Right.
And you know what? You start comparing, people will say they understand that this is a very good value for doing good things.
You know what, Sharon? People you talk to me, but there's a whole lot of other people who don't understand it, don't agree with it, and have every much right to for their opinion is the ones that, you know, use the golf course or use the tennis or use the yacht club. They don't understand. And, you know, you can kind of like, you know, I don't know what
I can
every-
tell
I don't
you,
know
a
what
neighboring
everybody
community,
wants.
their HOA fee is $12. They have one swimming pool, 2 tennis courts. Take your trash to the dumpster. It's $100 a month, $12. The neighboring community.
Oh, I know we got to do it. Anybody-
We have such a deal here, and
Public comment.
Public comment?
Public comment?
Yes.
Who are you, sir?
We know who you are.
Jeff Depper, 12 Carroll. I want to take you back. This is not long, but I want to take you back to the discussion about. Okay. Now, I have some credentials in the area of startups. I've been associated with small ones and big ones. The last one I did started life with $2 billion in capital and $800,000 in expense. That was a starting budget. So I know how these things work. If you stop and think about it, we have been open for 9 months. And we're looking and making potentially long-range impact decisions off 9 months of operation. Normally, even with the small one, it takes a while before you can settle in. You learn things, you do this wrong, you don't do that again, you do this right, replicate it. That takes time. If we continue to look at the yacht club performance month by month, okay, we're going to screw it up. We really are. It takes a while. I would guess, educated guess, I would guess it would take somewhere between 2 and 4 years of operation for us to have enough data to make intelligent decisions. So I urge you, as we think about this more, don't look so much at the short term. I mean, we all have to. I get that. We got to look at the short term. But don't make long-range decisions off something that's open for 9 flaming months. We know nothing. Well, not nothing. We know 2% about the yacht club in 9 months. It's a very small number. It takes longer. And by the way, along the way, we'll be brilliant and stupid. Hopefully not at the same time. But those things happen. That's the way it is. It doesn't matter, and this is with all due respect, it doesn't matter what you think about it. It doesn't matter what I think about it. That's kind of the way they work. And even a startup that had the lead to gold machine, you say, that's a sure thing. What if you run out of lead? All of a sudden, your sure thing is. So I do urge you to go back and think, because I didn't hear anybody, maybe I missed it, I didn't hear anybody mention that or talk about it. I don't think it's on your radar. And don't let the fact that we can't know with precision what the time is stop you from thinking about those kinds of things. Maybe there are some areas where we need to, if you want to call it cutting some slack, fine. I don't care what you call it. There's got to be time allocated to develop. Or you'll turn around, and we'll have a nice empty building.
Let me add to that. Let me build on that a little bit. I was working at the state of Maryland, the executive director of that, got the job, Brendan, because she decided that she was going to base her projections for the year following on only 9 months of data. What she did was she was $12 million a month short Blue Cross Blue Shield, and she was fired because of it. Because I went in and I said, well, I work with actuaries. We don't use less than 18. We'd like to have 2 or 3 year experience before we project rates ahead of time. And he's absolutely right. We can't know where the yacht club is going to end up at this point in time. Just don't know. We will know in 2 or 3 years how it's going. But until that time, we don't really know. That's when somebody comes up to me and says, well, I'll lease it right now. We got to have time to find out how it's working, what's going on.
Right. You don't take that answer off the table.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. You wait until you're smart enough to know whether that's.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. So we close the meeting?
Michelle, we have another comment.
Yeah, I'd just like to slightly disagree with my good friend Jeff in the sense that this, you call it a startup. We have 35 years of history running restaurant around. We don't have 35 years of running that particular building. In terms of a business, got 35 years experience running.
Thank you, Joe.
Mr. Steve?
Frank
Yes.
Healy, 34 Ocean Park Lake.
Right.
When you finalize what you're going to do this year's budget, would you just publish one statistic, 2 lines, that would kind of help resolve something that I picked up this kind of conflict here? First statistic, for the people that have been on the payroll 1 year or more, what has the average increase been? The second statistic is what is the range of that in percent?
I don't know. Can you get that answer?
Yeah, to look at. Figure out how to calculate.
Hey, the discussion today, lead, I think most people assume assessment based on decisions over and above the assessment increase in the budget. And yet, you have also said that you want there to be a 0 increase assessment. So I guess the obvious question is, where are you getting the money to keep the assessment status quo?
Well, we can talk about that. I mean, let me point out that in Marty's
Reallocating the 130?
That's a possibility. Marty's decision, recommendation, was to eliminate the 130 entirely. And basically, that was the mechanism by which we would reduce the assessments by, let's say $50, or maybe more than that. The whole 130 was a lot. So you took the assessment down. So that was Marty. So you can do that, of course, but on the other hand, would still be left with the question, well, yeah, like, how do we pay off debts that we incurred the outflow? I mean, that was where I said, okay, Marty, you were right. Let's get rid of the 130. I mean, in fact, it's a long past due this time. I agree with that. But we did it. And we built the yacht club, and we have, 2 million, something like that, worth of deficit in that account. And I'm saying, yeah, well, I'd like to do it too, but on the other hand, I can't do it in 1 year. Or maybe not 2 years. Okay, so go back to your original question. One of the ways that we could attack it is to continue, in other words, not reduce the deficit, use all of the 130 as is currently on the table to reduce the deficit year one, but to use some of the 130 and use part of the other as a reduction in contribution to from assessments into the 5-year plan. So that's a perfectly feasible way of doing it. What's the net impact? I'd like to get rid of the deficit faster if they were the operating, but all this is extended out somewhat further. So that's a feasible thing. As a time, I might expect to agree with you. That is a way.
Yes, I'm saying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just bring back to this budget that was handed had a $1 increase from the staff, $24 increase from fire and EMS protection. And that's what was there. That included the $130 being collected. We have added to that things for the yacht club, things that we think need to be done and we've added to. What the net effect of that is yet right now, I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I will say, for me, I am not going to revisit the same, and I'm not going to use Marty's terms because it sounds derogatory. I am not going to artificially move $150 out of this column and move it over to that column just so it looks like we didn't, the dues went down or they artificially were kept down. I'm just not going to play that game because as soon as that was done, they had to come back and establish the 5-year plan to go get the money again. So however we play this, I'm only one vote, but I'm not supporting that kind of maneuvering of money so that it looks like, we didn't have to raise the dues. We either need the money or we don't. Okay, and that's my view.
Yeah.
And we're not done
assessing. Just some portion of it besides the entire one.
Yeah.
Are you open to that negotiation?
Am I? No, I just heard we're going to pay down the debt. I don't know what that plan is.
You want to keep the entire 130 period?
I don't know, Joe. This is a whole new plan to me. I just got it last night.
I thought that's what you said.
I just got it. What I said was I'm not going to play games by moving money from this column to that column to artificially lower the dues.
I'm saying
130.
If I need the 130 to pay off a debt, I'm going to use it. If I got to use the 130, we just added dollars to this budget for things that were needed in this community.
Well, Marty's, I know.
And I will go back. I'll wrap up with this comment. Folks, listen to what Sharon said. Listen to Pat, what you said. This is a very good deal living here. The level of our assessment compared to some other communities, considering the amount of roads we have to maintain, amenities we take care of, all that work we do, for less than $1,000 a year? I mean, I'm sorry. I know it's not comfortable and people don't like that position, but it's what it is. When somebody else is paying $1,200 to get some grass cut and have one pool and a central collection for trash, I think we got a pretty good deal.
I'm talking about
Okay?
You're talking about what?
the park.
The park?
Meeting.
No, I'm not talking about the park. I'm not.
I moved the motion that we close the meeting.
We did.
Okay.
Oh, we already done that.
We don't have one.